Hey everyone, another quick video here for your homework assignment on Russia. The topic of all the news cycles and of today is the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So Ukraine is actually classified as an Eastern European country, but since this conflict is happening with Russia, I'm primarily going to go over this in this lesson and not the European lesson. So I'm going to talk about that in this video, and I have another question in your homework assignment about NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So I'm going to ask for you to watch that as well, so you'll have a good background on what exactly is going on over there. It's a pretty big mess, and it's a pretty big deal. Today's world, we get distracted very easily. We've got news coming from all different sources, and a lot of people have a lot different attitudes about things today than they did, say, when I was a kid. If this happened when I was a kid, this would have been the dominant news story every day, without question. This is a big deal. This is the largest scale invasion that has happened since World War II, really. Even bigger than Vietnam and Korea. This is a big deal, and Russia has really showed its hand. Really, it's Vladimir Putin. It's easy to categorize people and things in today's world as well, but Putin is the one behind this. He's Russia's president, if you didn't know that, and he has very strong ties to the old Soviet Union. He wants to return Russia to that old glory of the communist Soviet Union. So he wants to take things back that used to be part of that. And that's one of the main reasons that he did that, but there's a lot of other reasons as well. So this video is going to be geared toward your Google Earth exercise, but I'm also going to go over a few things in here that's going to help you with understanding this conflict. So up here I have Ukraine entered, so we'll hit search and it will take us to Ukraine. So here is the country of Ukraine. I'm going to back out a little bit so you can see this easier on the map. So you can see the yellow lines are country boundaries. The white lines are state or more local boundaries. So this is obviously Europe from our last lesson. So you have France, United Kingdom, you've got Poland, Germany, Belarus, and here is Ukraine. It sits right up against all this is Russia. I'm going to back out even further. I'm going to show you how big Russia is. So all of this is Russia. By far the largest country in the world with regards to land area. However, it's not close to the largest in population, because much of this expansive land area out here, as you'll find out in your lesson, is not populated very heavily at all. As a matter of fact, most of the population lives in this area right here. This is what we would call the European part of Russia. And let me explain that term. So, back in the day, when they were deciding on how to categorize things like continents, for some reason, and I know the reason why, it's a cultural reason, this is Europe right here. So as you can see, it's clearly the same landmass as Asia is. This is all Asia. Down here is Africa. So this is an isthmus on the end of Asia. But because of the culture and the history of this area, they made it its own continent. So this is Europe. And this over here would be Asia. So right here, there's a mountain chain called the Ural Mountains. Roughly, I'll draw a line right here. Just roughly in this area. Somewhere in there, it's close. I'm not zoomed in enough to see it really good. So typically, west of this line, this is what they call Europe. So this would be the European part of Russia. This would be the Asian part of Russia. So I know that's a little confusing, but probably 80 to 90% of the population in the whole country lives west of this line right here. So that's one delineation I wanted to make sure you all understood. And again, this is Ukraine right here. You've got Belarus right here that did play a role in this war. Belarus is the only country still remaining in this part of Europe that pretty much is a puppet of Russia. Its government is very pro-Russia, and they actually allowed Russian troops to stage here and enter the country in their invasion from Belarus. And the reason Russia wanted to do that is, if you zoom in a little bit more, Kiev right here is the capital. So that's the one of the primary military objectives of Putin. So out in this area on the common border with Russia, kind of isolated and kind of tough terrain to get through at times. But Kiev is very close to Belarus. So the Russian military groups came over here, stayed in Belarus, and took their attack right down through here. Now, what you can't see on here, I don't know if I zoom in a little bit if you'll be able to see it, but Chernobyl, it sits right up here. Chernobyl was a nuclear site, had a huge nuclear accident back, I think, in the 90s, and a lot of radioactivity, still a very dangerous site, and they fought all around that. Very dangerous. There's actually another nuclear power plant that they're currently fighting around that also could be catastrophic if anything happens to it. So that's just a little outline of what we're talking about, where we're sitting with regards in the world. Again, Europe's over here. Your next question in this lesson has to do with NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and the countries that are in NATO currently, and it kind of goes through the history of that. The former Soviet Union, what Putin would like to return, included Ukraine, it included Belarus, it included Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, which those three are currently members of NATO. Putin does not like that. I'll give you a hint. That's one of your questions. So that was one of the big objectives of doing this. Ukraine, in the beginning, there was a lot of Russian gains. They really went in there and took a lot of territory. It was really rough for a while. I mean, it's been rough the whole time, but it really kind of looked bad early. But recently, Ukraine has actually been just thumping Russia on the battlefield and pushing them way back. Russia basically took most of this territory all around here, almost to Kiev. Not quite. They never took Kiev. But recently, the Ukrainians have been pushing them back and back and back. So, kind of a positive for us. The United States, of course, we're supporting Ukraine, as is the entire NATO alliance. Although Ukraine is not formally a part of NATO, they have had interest in joining NATO. I think if they win this war, that will probably be something on the horizon. I would say that's pretty certain, actually, in the years to come. Recently, Finland and Sweden were not part of NATO, but because Russia invaded, they decided it would be a good idea to join. So they have both passed their resolutions to join, and now they have applied for membership with NATO. So now the ball's in NATO's court to actually confirm that and accept them into NATO. So let's go to this will be pretty brief here. I'm going to show you just a couple of items. I went over a couple of these already, but just to freshen your mind a little bit. So the last lesson we created polygons in our homework assignment, so you're familiar with that and how to do that. Another thing that's pretty similar but just a little different now, I'm going to ask you to create a couple of lines or pathways. And the difference between a line and a pathway is when you create, say you want to create a line. First of all, let me close that out. It's the little box. You see the first box is your pin or place mark. The second box is your polygon. The third, you'll see a little line with 3 dots on it. You click that, and that's going to open up, of course, your box. You should be familiar with this. This is your control box. And on the map, you can draw a line or a path. Now, what's the difference? So a line, you make 2 points, and you have a straight line between those 2 points. So let's say I wanted to draw a line from Kiev, put a point there, click on it to Kharkiv, put a point there, and see there's a line right there. So that made a line. Just 2 clicks, 2 points, and it bridges that gap. Now, if I wanted a straight line measurement, I could go on here, and it's 257 miles. That line is 257 miles long. And of course, again, you can do a drop down box if you wanted it in feet or kilometers or yards, whatever units you wanted it in, you can measure it in those. So be sure to notice when I ask a question on an assignment, I will typically tell you if I want it in miles or what units I want it in. So with big distances like this, of course that's going to be miles. I don't care about how many feet it is or anything like that. But if you're doing something really close, like within a small area, we might do feet or something of that nature. So I'm going to cancel that. Now this is like a polygon. If I just close this box, I've already created it, it would save it over here in my saved items list, in my menu over here, and it would be there. It would be an unnamed line or path is what it would be called. So I'm going to go ahead and close that and erase that. So I'm going to go back and click it again. Now let's do a path. So the difference in a line and a path is how many points you put in it. So a path can be curved. So I'm just going to do it randomly up here. Or I'll tell you what, this is one of your questions. I'll show you how to do this for one of your questions. One of the questions I ask you in your assignment is I want to know the distance in river miles up this river from the Delta down here in the Black Sea all the way up to Kiev. So I want you to trace that path. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. So I want you to do this all the way up, but I'm going to zoom in a little bit just to show you how to do this. So let's do, of course we have some reservoirs on here. These are just dammed areas of this river. That's still considered the river. So let's say we want to do this path up through here. So every time you put a point and then you put a second point, it's going to draw a straight line. So in an area that you have kind of a straight line, let's go from here over to here. I can put just 2 points here and do that, because that's pretty straight. But let's start going up here. So I'm going to do another point and it's going to go up. Another point, it's going to draw another line between those points. So as I go up here, the more points I put, you'll see the line starts to curve with the river because I'm putting more points. So I'll just keep clicking and clicking and clicking, and you can see the red dots behind where I'm clicking, and you can kind of see that I can follow the outline. And I'm not being real specific, I'm just kind of showing you here on the map how to do this. So now you can see that line. You can see all the red dots. That's just showing where the lines were, or where the points were, I'm sorry. You can see where I've clicked up there and kind of curved around with the river. Again, if it's a really long straight stretch, you can just put 2 points and bridge it. You don't have to put that many points, but if it's kind of curvy, you're going to have to put more points. Now, I have this drawn, so now what do I want to do? Well, if I want to see how long it is, I can look at the measurement, and that's 162 miles, the path I just traced. But let's go to, in the description, we can type in a description. Of course, up here, I want you to type in your name of what you're going to name this path. But right here, the style and color. So let's say we want to be able to see that from a big distance away. So your color is here. So right now it's a white line. Your width of your line, that's how thick the line is. And the opacity, if you remember in the last the polygon assignment we did, the opacity is how much you can see through that line. In this case, you want 100% because you want to be able to see that line. The only time you're going to adjust opacity very much is like inside of a polygon, like I showed you last time. You can kind of make it shaded, but not, and still be able to see through it. So let's go ahead, since that's a river, we're going to make that a blue line. So you select blue, hit OK. And it turned blue, but since it's on top of the already existing river, it's harder to see now. So let's go ahead and make the width of the line, let's make it really big. Let's go about 6. Now you can really see that line all the way through there. If I hit OK, the points go away, and it's down here. I didn't name it, so it's an untitled path still. That's what it's called. So you can see that blue line on there. So if I wanted to edit this or change this, if I wanted to name it, if I wanted to change something on it, right click on it and hit properties at the bottom of the menu, and it goes back to this box. And now you can do whatever your points are showing up again, as you can see, and you can actually move that. You can create different ones, whatever you need to do. So that's how you create a path or a line and get a measurement. Now I'm going to delete that because I don't want any more in here than I need on my menu. So another feature that's quicker than that. So I have a couple questions in your homework assignment that's going to ask you just how far of a distance between 2 points. So in that case, you don't want to create a new line and have it in your menu and all that stuff. You can just measure without creating a new path or line. If you click this, see this little ruler looking box up here? Click that and this box will open up. And this is just a measuring ruler. And you see here you got a line. Remember, a line is just 2 dots, straight line. A path is what we just created. That's going to be multiple points. Polygon, you can use you can measure a polygon, and the difference in this box, this is just a measurement. Once you close this, it goes away. It doesn't save it anymore. So again, we can do a path. We can go on the river, just start clicking, and it measures as you go. And I'm just kind of roughly following this. I'm not being precise. And you can see I've measured 130 miles to this point. Now again, you can either clear it here or you can just close it and it'll just go away. So that's strictly a measurement tool. So again, line is a straight line. Let's say you wanted to measure a distance again from Kiev to Kharkiv. Same thing we did a while ago, but we're not creating a line. We're just measuring and it's going to go away. So 253 miles. A polygon, I don't think I showed you before, but it's the same principle. You just click, make another point, and every point you make, it's going to fill in that polygon and change its shape. So that's how you measure a polygon. Now, a polygon's a little different in that it's not just a straight line distance. You have an area. Here's acres. I just measured out 11.7 million acres. So that's how you measure a polygon. So those are the 2 functions that you're going to use in this assignment. So I'll ask you a couple of those questions, and you can answer those. Y'all are doing really good on your Google Earth exercises thus far. And again, if you need any help or any assistance with anything, please let me know, and I'm always happy to help you guys out any way I can. Thanks.